181 straight days of Clippers talk. That's accurate. I'm Adam Osland. Welcome in. If you guys want to get on, 877-520-1150, 877-520-1150, whether you want to praise the team or
being a hater,
or if you're
being a hater, being a hater.
I don't know how you could be a hater with this Clippers team right now because they've won 12 of 15. Things are going well. Coming up on today's show, we'll have Justin Russo on. He'll be joining us at Fly By Night is where you find him on X to talk more about the situation with Chris Dunn versus DJ in the starting lineup. And I'll play some pregame audio for you from yesterday a little bit where I asked Coach Lou about it. But I want to start things off with getting to postgame audio from last night after the Clippers' 16-point victory over the Pelicans. They handled their business. Eventually they got there. D. Damari is in here first. Mark is in here. Oh, hi, Mark. Don't be a hater. Come on now. Why would you want to be
a hater?
Like Ivica Zubac is watching the standings right now. We'll update you on the standings. We'll talk a little bit about the Lakers Golden State Warriors game tonight, which I guess you might be rooting for the Lakers in that one. But first, I want to play some post-game audio from you from last night, starting with Coach Lou. After the Clippers, the final score was, I think I got it for you right here, 114-98 in their victory over the Pelicans.
Todd, how would you kind of rate this win tonight for you guys? Was this because before the game you said you wanted a professional win? Did this meet that standard for you?
Not really.
Justin Russo, who's coming up in just a second.
Before the game you said you wanted a professional win. Did this meet that standard for you?
Not really defensively. I thought we weren't physical enough. We wasn't in the bodies. I thought we got lost a lot with our bracket coverages. But that came from being off the bodies and not being physical. I thought the second unit came in the first half and gave us a lift with the physicality. It kind of got us going. But overall, I thought that movement and us getting to the bodies and being physical, we didn't do a good job with that.
Yeah, I didn't think Coach Lou would be completely satisfied with their performance last night, considering it was 22-16 after the first quarter. Clippers came out very slow to start.
With Norm and some of the ups and downs that he's gone through since coming back from injury, do you feel like it is just him finding his way again, or do you feel like it's a combination of that with him fitting in around kind of a fully healthy team for the first time all season?
Really smart question from Joey Lynn on Norm, who did struggle again last night. It's been a little bit up and down since he came back. Smart question. Because, is it just him getting back into a groove? But is it also him getting back into a groove with being next to Kawhi now healthy, with Ivica Zubac getting as many touches as he does, with James Harden out there? Like, they have kind of a big four going on. Only one ball. How does he stay in rhythm? How does he stay into the flow? Here was Coach Lou.
I mean, well, like I said, Norm's done a great job, like I said, all year, just carrying his team offensively. And then, like I say, he got the injury. But it's not like just about Norm. Like, our team is playing better. Kawhi's playing better. James is playing better. Zoo. And so, we need Norm, in the biggest way. And so, like I said, just getting his touches, just getting his rhythm back, finding his flow in the offense. But he's very important to what we're doing. It has been all year, So when you're off for a month, it's going to take you a little time to get back in the flow of things, which I know he will, like he did last game. We're in Cleveland. He was huge and, made some big shots for us in Orlando. So, really not worried about Norm. He's going to be great. But like I said, it's just more so our team is playing better. And so, everybody's like kind of distributing the shots.
We'll talk more about Norman Powell, Justin Russo coming up. It's been spotty with him. Obviously, he's had good games. Coach Lou mentioned the big game against Cleveland, but that was without Kawhi. He hit some really big shots and was efficient in their victory in Orlando. So it's just getting a little bit more consistency out there, but The offense overall has been really good, regardless.
Tyler, you guys have 6 players double figures. How important does that make you guys?
Yeah, we talked about at halftime, just, when you're not playing, really good offense and it looks nasty out there and you still have 59 points at halftime, it's a sign of a decent team, But, we know we got to clean up a few things and be better in that regard. But I thought overall, offensively we made the right play. They double teamed the post with Zoo and Kawhi. We made some good passes and good plays, had our spacing right, which we need to keep getting better with. But, overall, I thought, we did a decent job.
Offensively, last 15 games where they are 12-3, 5th best offense in the league, 4th best defense over that time. Exactly what I thought would happen once Kawhi got back, got off the minutes restriction, got back to looking like himself. They'd have a top 10 offense. They've had that and then some right now.
So we started the game with Kelly Leonard, like he was on Chris Dunn, but not really on Chris.
So here's Law Murray asking about the situation with Chris Dunn and teams playing off of him, giving up those shots from the outside. How problematic is that for spacing purposes for the Clippers? We'll get into this more with Justin Russo, and I asked him pregame a little bit about this too, and we'll play that audio as well.
It's like Chris got a chance to get shots, be aggressive. Like when teams are going to play like that, put a big on Chris, give him all the space. How do you want him to play? Like you want him to shoot at all of those open shots. You want him to drive. Like how do you tell Chris to proceed when guys are playing like you saw tonight?
How do you want Chris to play when guys are playing off of him like that and giving him wide open shots? Great question from Law.
It depends on how the flow of the game goes. I think, he shot 3 for 5 from 3, which is 60%. And so if we're going to leave him open, he's going to make those shots, then, we got to just keep passing the ball, So Chris understands the game, and if he's not making shots, he knows how to get to the next action, throw it, comes to another pick. Now that man's in the paint, so you got Kawhi and Norma James coming off, and they're going to be open. So just playing the game, just reading the game. If he has a good flow and a good rhythm shooting the basketball, if not, just get to the next action and then be ready to pop and shoot it again, So he understands that part. But I like his shot. Like I said, if team's going to guard him like that, he has to be confident, step up and take those shots. And when he's knocking them down, we're a different team.
Coach, in that fourth quarter,
We'll dig into more on Chris Dunn versus DJ and the rationale for what the Clippers are up to with Chris Dunn in the starting lineup still.
Was extended their defense, especially against the second unit. It seemed like they sped you guys up, forced some turnovers. When you think about some of the teams tops the West, the OKCs, the Houstons who play physical defense, they pick up 94 feet. How does things like that help prepare you guys for some of those teams top the West, given that you guys do make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good for us to, understand how we got to play, how we got to escape, the ball pressure. And like I said, especially with that second unit, if James or KD's down on the floor, you don't have a traditional point guard on the floor. So just having different ball handlers, understand what we want to run and what we want to get into offensively. We just got to do a better job with that.
I don't know what the hell Thomas is talking about here. If Ben Simmons can average double digits, Clippers are unstoppable. That's not going to happen. He's not going to play enough minutes, plus he's not going to take enough shots, and that's not what they need. Their offense is great. What they need from him is good defense, switchability, and his playmaking out there. That's what Ben Simmons brings.
Coach, in the era, where there's so much emphasis predicated upon the volume of three-point shooting, your team is a band of misfits, ranking in the top 5 in shots taken and made from the 10 to 16 foot area. Can you talk to me about the value of the mid-range and how it enhances and opens things up for your offense?
Yeah, I think you just got to take the defense is giving you. And now in the last, 7, 8, 9 years, teams have been going to the deep drop, which is allowing, guys to be able to get to the mid-range, pull up, 2-point shot. And so why not master what teams are giving up? And so, like I said, our team does a good job of just taking what the defense gives us. We can take threes, but we do have some good mid-range shooters as well. So you can't just be, 3 or rim. It just it doesn't work that way. So you got to take what the defense gives you. And like I said, we do a good job of mixing it up.
Oh, there's one guy that definitely takes what the defense gives him, and that is Kawhi Leonard, because he is a master in the mid-range. In fact, over his last 15 games, he is shooting, let's see if I get this right, 50% from 10 to 14 feet out and from 8 to 16 feet out, which is elite. That's Jordan in the mid-range, shooting 50% in those areas. So that's Kawhi is at 47% in that area for his career. He's looking back to where he has been throughout his prime in the mid-range.
That's one. Hey, Coach, just how privileged do you feel just having a team where you can play 10, go 10 deep this late in the season, where a lot of teams are already got to their 8-man, 9-man rotation? Just how privileged do you feel?
Feel really privileged. We have a good team. Like I said, a lot of guys deserve to play, but you can't play, 13, 14 guys. And so it takes a lot of sacrifice. We cut our rotation down to 9, and so, with Amir being out, we just, like I said, we're at 9 right now. And so I think guys get into a better rhythm to get more minutes. And then you can also, mess with the rotations a little bit when you're playing 9 guys. So we know going to the playoffs, you want to have a set 9, and then if you got to go 8, you got to go 8. But right now I'm pretty confident where we're at.
Coach Lou reiterating the fact that Amir Coffey is out of the 9-man rotation. We've talked about the reasons for that ad nauseum here. Let's hear from James Harden postgame.
When you guys have 6 guys scoring double figures, how much more does that make you guys a very dangerous team?
James had 21, 10, just 2 turnovers on 7 of 14 shooting last night.
It means we're getting the ball around. It means, guys are making shots and we're playing for each other. Anytime we can get that type of, productivity from, numerous guys, it makes the game a lot easier for all of us. So, obviously, we know New Orleans is shorthanded, very shorthanded, and, it wasn't about them, it's about us.
How tough?
That was the type of game where it's about what the Clippers do, not the opponent when you're taking on a depleted Pelicans team. Let's hear from Justin Russo.
For these games, coming back, first game back at
Very
home.
tough, no matter who you play. Coming from a long road trip, going for, over a week. So no matter who we played, it was going to be a tough game. We knew that. So just the whole point of it was just trying to get the win, and we did that.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit post-game, but 9 games on East Coast time. You come back that first game back. I think that accounts for some of the, lethargy out there, and the Clippers just starting very slow, and there was a lack of pop. And Coach Lou talked about a lack of physicality to start the game. They looked tired. You'll hear more about that coming up.
Like we ask you this all the time, but here we go again. 6 games left. How much are you paying attention to the standings? Where you guys are?
Everybody is. Okay. But, I think we control our own destiny. You know what I mean? So, and, we just want to be playing well no matter who, we're playing against. So, obviously it's going to work out how it worked out. But for us, it's just playing well and controlling what we can control.
James, I think no one would have, faulted you if you want to take a game or 2 off after that ankle sprain, but you haven't. You've just been playing, doesn't look like you've missed a step. What is it about you and just being out there that you are just committed to it no matter what?
Just I love the game of basketball. Obviously, like the ankle did hurt, and it was my ankle, it was my foot. So I got very flat feet. So it was my foot. But I had 2 days to kind of, do round-the-clock treatment, and these games are very, very important, for us to be able to, be in a position to make the playoffs and have a good run. So every game counts.
You guys remember that whole foot injury thing that James Harden had? It seemed like he worked through it pretty quickly. Quick healer, pain tolerance, whatever it is, he has been remarkably available all season.
And I know you guys made a nice little push today for Zoo with the shirts, the pronunciation of the defensive player of the year. What can you just say about that and what he's meant for you guys?
He deserves it, man. He's done a lot. He's played. I think he's only missed, knock on wood, 2 games so far this year, which is very, very, big time. He's done an unbelievable job. I don't know the correct number. I think we're top 5 in defense. So, and he's a big part of that. He's the anchor of our defense. So, yeah, I don't think he deserves, or I don't think he gets a lot of credit. And he's been having an unbelievable season. both ends of the ball. So yeah, his name should be, but he doesn't talk a lot. He's not gonna go out there and campaign for himself. He's gonna go out there and just do his job. And but he deserves a lot of recognition for defense.
James Harden there talking about Ivica Zubac. Everybody wearing the shirts, phonetically spelling out how to pronounce Ivica Zubac and saying number one in defensive player, DPOY, DPOY. And he should be recognized. He's been that good this season. He should be in the mix for defensive player of the year.
Ever since you joined the group last year, Zeus credit you a lot for just being able to establish that two-man game.
Yep.
And what do you think has gone into that?
Communication, time, elite playmaking.
So he's laughing because he's talking about himself. Got a question about the connection between him and Ivica Zubac and how he's been so good this season. James Harden giving himself a little bit of credit. He deserves it. He is an incredible playmaker, pick and roll player, and he is always elevated the bigs that he plays with.
Time, elite playmaking. You know what I mean? Like, if it was Joe Blow out there passing it to Zoo, it wouldn't be as easy.
If it was Joe Blow out there passing it to Zoo, it wouldn't be as easy. All right, pat yourself on the back, my friend.
You know what I mean? But I've been grateful and blessed to be, in this league for a long time and has made a lot of big men, money, has been able to, play with different types of big men, whether it's a lob threat or, guys who aren't lob threats. So just constant communication. He's done an unbelievable job of listening. That's the most important thing. He listens, and then obviously him working on his own game and getting better is a key as well.
So you also talked about, Ivica Zubac has improved. He's gotten better. But James Harden deserves some credit for the growth of Ivica Zubac. Now, I think a lot of this is still about opportunity, and we'll hear from Big Zoo coming up next about that and just how he's excelled this season. Well, he's gotten far more opportunities, far more touches out there.
Taylor, off of this road trip, like where would you put the chemistry and togetherness that this team has developed over the year? Where would you put that in comparison to the team together?
Say it again.
The chemistry, the togetherness that you guys had, especially coming off this road trip, going into playoffs. Like, where would you put that in comparison to all the teams that you've been on?
I don't know about comparison to the team, but I just know our chemistry is very, very good. Obviously since we made first Kawhi getting back and then the trade, it's been 30-some games, 40. If that. So the chemistry is exactly where it needs to be. It's only going to continue to get better. I think that road trip helped us out a lot, and now we get back home and we do our thing at home. But I won't compare it to. It's hard to compare it to any other team just because it's different situations, but it's where it needs to be.
You mentioned
Chemistry has been elite with this squad. They are a very tight-knit group right now.
Been able to do for other bigs in your career, and now what you've been able to develop with Z. Do you feel like that's an underrated / underappreciated element of not just your games, but point guards in general, what they're able to do in the way that they
but
can
a lot of
elevate
certain point guards, certain point guards aren't able to. Something like it's elite, it's elite point guards that make guys better. So it is. It's the game. Like it's their job. To run offense, to get guys in their spots, and to make their teammates better. So, I don't think it's unappreciated. I think it's just what they're supposed to be doing. And if you do it at the highest level and continue to make guys better, no matter where you are, what team you're on, or what type of big it is, then that person deserves a lot of credit. And there's a lot of guys that's in this league that has done that and will have done that. Look at somebody like Luka who's done that. So you got to be special.
All right, I'm going to try to find a little bit of a volume boost with some of the post-game interviews here. Let's see. Here's Ivica Zubac's post-game.
Today.
Oh, nice. Nice surprise.
I think that was Lauren Rosen asking him about the T-shirts everybody was wearing for him to get him a little bit more love when it comes to Defensive Player of the Year.
It's today.
So nice surprise. See everyone walk into the facility, player staff, coaches, everyone.
In all seriousness, reflecting on your career getting to this point now, what does it mean to be a legitimate contender for not just Defensive Player of the Year, but plenty of awards this year?
It means a lot. Didn't win many awards during my career, so.
I don't know if this audio is any better than the one I was at. Let me get back
It
to
can be
that
tough,
then.
even
See if this works. Hoop Jab, Hoop Chef, they're both cooking when it comes to Clippers postgame.
Getting to this point now, what does it mean to be a legitimate contender for not just Defensive Player of the Year, but plenty of awards this year?
It means a lot. Didn't win many awards during my career, so it means a lot just to be in that conversation. It means I came a long way, so really happy to be in.
It means a lot to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.
James says it's part of the reason why they want to do this because you're not the type of guy to advocate for yourself, and they want to do it for you. But if you were to make a case for yourself, what do you think this season says about your candidacy? Not like Lauren said, not just for Defensive Player of the Year, but for other awards as well.
I don't know. I should have got a shot. I don't want to talk about myself.
I tried.
Zoo doesn't want to talk about himself. He doesn't want to campaign for himself.
So you tweet it out.
I told Joey Lynn, you tweeted it out.
So you had I think a play there where you kind of showed off the footwork and spinning back and forth with the hook shot. Just what can you say about that development, the little skill set development over time? I think people might expect development early in a career. Some people take a little bit longer. Like, what can you say about that part of your game?
That's not something I learned last summer. I had that my whole life.
That's what I'm talking about. That's not something I learned this past summer. I've had that my whole life. Zoo has a bag. He's been like this. He has a ton of moves on the offensive end. He just hasn't been able to show it off. Listen to this.
Over time, I think people might expect development early in a career. Some people take a little bit longer. Like, what can you say about that part of your game?
That's not something I learned last summer. I had that my whole life. It's a matter of opportunity, confidence. Got a few more things that I'm not showing, but we'll see.
Got a few more things he's not showing yet.
What are you holding back for?
Next year. Can't show everything the same year.
You can't show everything the same year.
For?
I'm talking threes?
Hold down. Just talking about it.
They tried to press him on it. Are we talking about threes? Zoo said, not talking about it. Doesn't want to give away his entire arsenal of moves that he hasn't showed off yet.
I'll be better next year.
As you guys wind down the season here, a lot of the games at home. I know you said you watch the standings and everything, but how much are you also kind of just focused on making sure that you guys as a team, not individual stats or individual kind of accolades, but just playing the right way heading into the postseason?
It's big time. And I think we've been playing the right way lately. We've been really locked in defensively. Just the level of how everyone is locked in, how everyone is on the strength, everyone's playing together, covering each other on defense. It's been next higher level than we used to play earlier this year. So, guys, everyone has a right mindset. Everyone's focused on us getting wins. That's it.
Summarize. We're locked in.
How tough is the first game back at home after a long road trip?
Tough.
He said tough. It's tough. I get it. Carlo was with him on the road. He felt it. They were still 3 hours ahead last night.
I was so tired tonight.
I was so tired tonight, said Ivica Zubac. And it's a real part of the NBA grind of 82-game seasons and coming back home, West Coast time, after being on East Coast time for 9 days. It's just being honest. You can say it's an excuse, but it takes time for your body to adjust.
I'm glad we got a win. That was Pelicans too, so always, a little harder than against other teams, but
Pelicans always a little harder than against other teams. Ivica Zubac said it. They know the Pelicans have given them problems.
We got to win, man. But it's definitely coming back for that long road trip. The first game back, it can be tough.
I know you said the Pelicans, but is that something you guys are cognizant of? It's just
for sure. It's every time I see Pelicans on the schedule,
Every time I see Pelicans on the schedule, I'm like, oh, he's just shaking his head.
But we got one. So
We got one.
I'm sure the next one probably gonna be easier. It's not Pelicans.
So Ty was praising the defense, just how much you're doing so many different things, whether it's blocking shots or switching or blitzing, drop. What goes into being able to master all those different things?
Just I don't know. So I think just reading the defense and being ahead of the play, reading who's setting a pick, who's handling the ball, who got it going, who we got to blitz. If they got it going, sometimes you got to speed roll. Like tonight, you got to be in a deeper drop. But it's all about being able to do multiple things and have multiple options of defense, to adjust. So it's been a long process for me throughout the career to adjust in that pick and roll defense. But I feel like no matter who I'm going against, whatever they throw, small ball, bigs, playing the post or shooting bigs, whatever it is, I feel like just communicating, being able to adjust, and having read the play before it happens helps a lot. And I feel like to play against anyone.
Zoo talking about different defensive responsibilities there. Let's move along. Let's hear from Kawhi Leonard post game, who had an efficient 28. Saying this a lot lately with him. 28 on just 11 of 18 shooting. I want to see where Kawhi's been over the last 15 games from the Clippers, where they are 12-3. I want to punch in the parameters and see what Kawhi and his shooting splits are during that time, because I know it's been good. I want to see how good. It is last year's version of Kawhi. Been waiting for it. Took a little bit longer because he can't train the way he used to. He can't. That has changed. So Kawhi's played in 12 of the last 15 games for the Clippers. And in those 12 games, he is shooting 53% from the field, 43% from three, 82 at the free throw line, and averaging, let me see here, I got to punch in per game, averaging, let me see at here, 25. Averaging 25 per game. Seems good. 6 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, a little over half a block. Yeah, Kawhi's absolutely been elite. Here he was post game last night.
Very proud.
Thanks, Sue.
How tough can these first games back at home after a long road trip be?
They could be tough, even the second one coming up. After being on the road, it's basically a 10 o'clock game on the East Coast. Kind of get adjusted to the time, but yeah, you got to be big boys and come out and play.
You got to be big boys and come out and play. Ooh, that might be a new quote. That might be something new. You got to be big boys and.
But yeah, you got to be big boys and come out and play.
I think that's a new sound drop for me.
You got to be big boys and come out and play. You got to be big boys and come out and play.
Saving this one, guys. Added to the catalog of sound from Kawhi. Gotta be big boys. I need a big boy. I need a big boy.
You gotta be big boys and come out and play.
More from Kawhi.
But James was talking about Zoo's evolution. Obviously, you guys have the shirts today with Zoo promoting him for Defensive Player of the Year and everything. Just what can you say about his development year over year, and especially what we've seen out of him this year?
He's been great on both sides of the ball. We made the shirts for a reason. He's been protecting the paint, getting rebounds, and pretty much doing a good job on their bigs in one-on-one situations. So it's well deserved. And, you see his hard work, being played on the court.
He showed some of the footwork today with the spin move, the hook shot. He said he's got a lot more in the bag. He just hasn't had a chance to show it. Anything you can say to him to get him to show more of that?
Tell Harley anything you can say to him to get him to show more of his bag?
He'll probably show it once he starts getting more touches. But it's winning basketball. A lot of people, could do a lot more on the court or be, I guess a little more flamboyant with their skills and moves. But
all these guys, you see them during the summer and the Drew League. It's a more relaxed setting, not an NBA game. Like the stuff they can do, incredible. But some of that stuff won't play at this level. You try to show off the handle, you try to get too fancy with it, you can get yourself in trouble real quick in the National Basketball Association. That's why, the professor didn't make the NBA from the N1 Street Ball League, although I do love the professor.
He has a mindset of winning and, making sure the ball gets in the basket.
High praise from Kawhi talking about Big Zoo there.
I feel like there was a moment in the third quarter where you and James kind of had to get on the same page defensively. What's it like when you and...
Okay, this is interesting. I talked about it last night. Kawhi and James Harden were chirping about a play. Kawhi was at the free throw line. James came up to him. They were talking back and forth. They were trying to work something out. So Law asked him about it. Great question.
I had to get on the same page defensively. What's it like when you and him, whether it's a disagreement or just need to get on the same page, in the moment? What's that like? What's that been like developing that over the last year or so?
It's needed. We had exchanges. That's not the only exchange that we had in today's game or throughout the whole year. So it's about what we're doing and what we're not executing. And we have words for each other there. And, this is playing basketball. It's chemistry. It's knowing that your brother got your back.
Knowing that your brother got your back. Kawhi points out that's all part of it. That's winning basketball. You got to have those tough conversations. You got to work through it on the court. I love hearing this.
It's needed. We had exchanges. That's not the only exchange that we had.
It's needed. That's not the only exchange that we had.
In today's game or throughout the whole year. So it's about what we're doing and what we're not executing. And we have words for each other there. And, this is playing basketball. It's chemistry. It's knowing that your brother got your back.
You play with a lot of stars. Is he unique in that way where it feels like you guys can go at each other if need be? Is that typical for other stars, or is that something that you guys have built up?
I think it's been pretty transparent since he's been here. I haven't seen any stars who don't want to get better or coached or, be told what they're doing wrong or what they're doing well. So it was a thing that we all needed to do. And it's good for our teammates to see it. Like I said, because it just wasn't for us. It's for everybody on the floor.
James and Zio mentioned that.
Yeah, it says you care. I'm from Sacktown, so I pay attention a little bit to what's happened with the Kings and their lack of communication out there on the floor defensively. Guys don't rotate. They don't talk afterwards. Nobody gets upset. They don't have conversations. They just go, move on to the next play, I guess. That's not winning basketball. Clippers are trying to iron things out. They're trying to be great. So when I see Kawhi and James Harden having a conversation like that, it looks a little bit animated. Good. They care.
at this point in the season, everyone's standing, watching the opposing teams. So obviously, you focus on your own team, but do you catch yourself looking at where other teams might be be it standing to their facing?
They do it.
Kawhi standings watch.
Your own team, but do you catch yourself looking at where other teams might be be it standing to their facing?
They do enough for me.
They do enough for me as teammates.
I do watch games, but for me, is winning is whoever you put in front of you. So whoever it is, you got to beat them to win the ultimate goal.
Winning is whoever they put in front of you.
Winning is whoever you put in front of you. So whoever it is, you got to beat them to win the ultimate goal.
So they'll in the group chat.
Yeah, for sure. Or when I walk in here and they'll tell me what went down or what happened.
Kawhi laughed there at the end. Did you guys hear that? I think I got it. I caught it. Caught him in 4K HD audio. Okay, maybe that's not technically 4K. I got to add this to the collection here. Kawhi laugh. What was this? The third one I got? Love it. Okay, so we'll move things along. That was post-game audio from last night. Clippers win over the Pelicans, 114-98. But pregame, I'm going to ask questions to Coach Lou if I don't hear them being asked about things we talk about here on Clippers Talk. Some of the subject matter we've been discussing. We just did a show regarding Chris Dunn versus DJ, the strengths, the weaknesses, the contrasting, the comparing, and who belongs to the starting lineup. Had that show for you. Check it out in the live section. So I thought I'd ask Coach Lou a little bit about it. And then Tomer followed up. So we kind of double teamed asking about Chris Dunn, DJ, the thought process, why Dunn over DJ right now. This was pregame yesterday.
Hey, Coach, you said a couple of months ago that it's matchup dependent with your starting lineup between DJ and Chris Dunn. Is that still the case? And how do you see those two players and their differences in the starting lineup?
Over the last month, I think KD's been the starter, pretty much every night. Unless normal Kawhi's out, then we usually move DJ into the starting lineup. But I like, just having KD on the floor, another ball handler that can initiate the offense, especially when teams are pressuring James and pressuring Kawhi. We got a guy that can facilitate and run the offense. So that's huge. But also his point of attack defense and what he does, of course, defensively is huge as well. So it's a great fit for us right now, and that's what we've been rolling with, and we've been playing well doing that.
So, two things he mentions there with Chris Dunn. First, having another ball handler out there.
But I like, just having KD on the floor, another ball handler that can initiate the offense, especially when teams are pressuring James and pressuring Kawhi. We got a guy that can facilitate and run the offense. So that's huge.
I think the Clippers and Coach Lou's belief is that has a residual effect, an ongoing effect throughout the ball game. It's a tough thing to measure with the analytics maybe, but I think the belief is you're saving James Harden's legs. He's not as tired and fatigued if he doesn't have to bring the basketball up as much because, well, Kawhi's going to bring it up some. Chris Dunn can also bring it up some. And that helps keep James Harden fresher later in the game. And then part two of the answer from Coach Lou was about his great point of attack defense.
But also his point of attack defense and what he does, of course, defensively is huge as well. So it's a great fit for us right now, and that's what we've been rolling with, and we've been playing well doing that.
No, Mark, it's a real topic. We're going to talk about it here. I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating because I think it's a real decision. And in the playoffs, if they're struggling, if Chris Dunn's not hitting shots, well, I think it'll be a quick hook from Coach Lou. So Tomer now follows up.
Good to hear that you're doing better.
Thank you.
Just following up kind of, I'm just with Chris, like we've seen, like the Cavs, for example, kind of stuck Evan Mobley on him and just kind of guarded the middle there. Obviously, he's a capable playmaker and ball handler, but when you have James and Kawhi out there, you want the ball in their hands more. Like, how have you navigated, not just kind of like sticking him in the corner, the big kind of roam off, and just keeping everything balanced and not just one way, I guess you could say.
No, I mean, it's huge for us when, like I said, teams are pressuring James, and he's able to initiate and bring the ball up. But we don't want to wear James down. He does a lot.
You see, they don't want James to be worn down. And the belief is Chris Dunn bringing the ball off the floor, which DJ isn't nearly as good at. That's advantage Chris Dunn for being in the starting lineup to help James.
Bring the ball up, and we don't want to wear James down. He does a lot for us offensively. And if teams are going to guard him like that, you got to be ready to step up and make shots. And I think
if they're going to leave Chris Dunn wide open, he's got to make shots.
And if teams are going to guard him like that, you got to be ready to step up and make shots. And I think that game he shot 3 for 8 from 3, which is 42%.
The game against the Cavs.
And if teams are going to guard him like that, you got to be ready to step up and make shots. And I think that game he shot 3 for 8 from 3, which is 42%, which is good. And like you said, if you don't have it, get to the next action. If you don't like your shot, you miss a couple. If your guys in the middle of the paint do swing and said, no, let's pick for Kawhi or Norm or whoever, those guys will be open as well. And so those are things.
So that's the other side of this. If you don't have it, if you're not hitting, there's other things you can do. Give it up. Small pick and roll, set a screen for somebody else out there, help somebody else out. It's not just one option for Chris Dunn. He either makes or misses that shot, and if he's not making them, he's definitely out. If he's not making them, there's other things he can do to help.
If your guys in the middle of the paint do swing and said, no, let's pick for Kawhi or Norm or whoever, those guys will be open as well. And so those are things we got to continue to keep going on, but I'm confident with his shot. Like he has a nice shot, and sometimes he makes it, sometimes he don't. But he brings more to the team than just making open shots.
So there was Coach Lou pregame talking about it, and then again postgame, the conversation continued, and it was Law Murray asking him this.
You guys have 6.
Getting to the bodies and being fit.
Ups and downs that he's gone through, him fitting in around
the injury better. And the biggest getting his touches, just getting when you're off on him, he's gonna be great. But like I said, nasty out there. I thought overall,
Sorry, I gotta skim through here.
Being with Kelly Olynyk, he was on Chris Dunn, but not really on Chris. Chris got a chance to get.
Olynyk was on Chris Dunn, but he was completely playing off of him. So part of the issue here, how do they work through it?
Get shots, be aggressive. When teams are going to play like that, put a big on Chris, give him all the space. How do you want him to play? You want him to shoot at all of those open shots. You want him to drive. How do you tell Chris to proceed when guys are playing like you saw tonight?
It just depends on how the flow of the game goes. I think he shot 3 for 5 from 3, which is 60%. And so if they're going to leave him open, he's going to make those shots. Then we got to just keep passing the ball.
They're going to leave him open. He's making shots. Keep passing him the ball. They were willing to live with the ball funneling Chris Dunn's way, but he did make them pay to a degree.
So Chris understands the game, and if he's not making shots, he knows how to get to the next action. Throw it, comes to another pick, and now the man's in the paint, so you got Kawhi, Norm, or James coming off, and they're going to be open. So just playing the game, just reading the game. If he has a good flow and a good rhythm shooting the basketball, if not, just get to the next action and then be ready to pop and shoot it again. So he understands that part, but I like his shot. Like I said, if team's going to guard him like that, he has to be confident, step up and take those shots. And when he's knocking them down, we're a different team.
For more on this conversation between whether to start Chris Dunn or Derrick Jones Jr., well, join the show right now is the real Terminator. I'm not talking about Kawhi Leonard. I'm not talking about another bad sequel. I don't know if he has the glasses near him right now, but we got Justin Russo on at FlyByNight. KNITE is where you find him on X. Subscribe to his Substack. I believe his latest article is titled Clippers Navigate Pitfalls of First Game Back Home with Methodical Win over the Pelicans. Justin, thanks for doing this.
No problem, man. How you been?
I'm good. you've been doing great coverage regarding this subject matter, so I thought it'd be good to have you on. I was talking about it, I think, at the same time as you were posting that thread the other day. 2 ships passing in the night. I was like, damn it, I should have just asked Justin to come on. But there's been even more chatter with, I just played the pregame audio. I asked him a question about it. Tomer Azarli asked him a question about it. Just the thinking of playing Chris Dunn and what to do when guys are playing off of him, and that limits your spacing out there. And Law Murray followed up post-game about that. So Coach Lue makes it sound like there's 2 things that are important to him and why he prefers Chris Dunn, who has been starting over the last month. And it's his ball handling and ability to take some of the responsibility there off the plate of James Harden, and then his point of attack defense. The numbers, though, do say, and they've had about equal time next to the other 4 guys in the starting lineup, him and DJ, that with Derrick Jones Jr., I mean, their net rating is substantially better, like about 20 points better per 100 possessions with him out there versus Chris Dunn next to Kawhi, Norm, James Harden, and Ivica Zubac. Do you think Coach Lue's reasoning makes sense enough to continue to stick with Chris Dunn?
The numbers say Derrick Jones is the better fit, and there's no argument. Like, he's the better fit. I don't think anyone could argue that. His argument, Ty Lue's argument, is they kind of know that internally, that Derrick is the better fit, but you can't not play Chris. And the best lineup to play Chris with is that lineup. So the other factor that does get overlooked a lot is James has looked really good over the last month or so. Some of that does coincide with Chris Dunn being in the lineup with him, to where James doesn't have to just dribble the ball up the floor for 48 minutes against pressure defenders nonstop. Chris can end up doing that. Kawhi obviously does that. You have other initiators as well, because Norm can do that.
Is that Chris, the unstatable part of this, where there is an effect overall just having the ball out of James's hands a little bit more, where it saves his legs?
I shudder to think about unstatable, because I just got Avery Bradley PTSD, but no, but I mean, in a weird way, the beneficiary of this isn't Chris. What Chris is doing benefits the team, and the ramifications of it are not seen with him on the floor. As weird as that sounds, he's not reaping the benefit numbers wise in terms of the net rating with him on the floor, but James has been better, efficiency wise with Chris on the floor at the last time that I looked, which was the other day. And also just the turnovers are down as far as James is concerned with Chris on the floor. And that's a big deal. So you're turning the ball over less. As a defense, you're forcing more turnovers with Dunn on the floor. Now, like I said, they're not playing better with him on the floor as opposed to Derrick. But also, if you don't play Chris with that lineup and you're playing him with bench lineups where now he's on the floor with Ben Simmons, it gets a little wonky. And Ben's also a playmaker and a ball handler. So why do you need Chris out there at that point? So if you're not playing Chris with the starters, you're just not playing him. And now you're down to 8 men in a rotation, which maybe they get to that point in the playoffs, which I wouldn't be shocked at. But also they understand the value of Chris isn't what he does in the opening 6 minutes of each half and how those lineups are in the opening 6 minutes of each half. It's how the team closes games in the final quarter and a half, so to speak, in terms of alleviating the pressure off of James, because James does play the entire first and third quarters. He ends up playing usually the last half or about 7-8 minutes of the fourth quarter. I haven't looked at the numbers this year, but I believe he plays more in the second halves of games than he does in the first half for James. This is so they're trying to alleviate the burden of James, and that's the biggest issue.
So, how much distance do you think there is between Chris Dunn and DJ when it comes to ball handling and passing and bringing the ball up the floor, versus also how much better maybe Chris Dunn is defensively than Derrick Jones Jr.? I guess, how do you rate these two guys and their biggest differences, which are the reasons that Coach Lue likes Chris Dunn over him?
So the gulf between them as ball handlers and playmakers, or at least passing initiators and decision makers, is pretty wide. Like, Chris Dunn was a point guard in college at Providence. That's what he did. That's why he got drafted as high as he did, 5th overall. So, that gap is just never closing. And it's not a slight against Derek. It's also just how good Chris is at that level of the field. There is a gap in shooting confidence, and I would even say shooting, like the way that teams cover them when they're on the floor. Derek has that wide of an edge as well. As far as defensively, it's kind of interesting. I think Chris is the better overall defender, but I do think Derek is better at navigating driving lanes and stopping players from getting into the paint. Chris is a lot better at what I would say is a lot better at screen navigation and the pressure defense in terms of rear view contests, and also at playing passing lanes as a help side defender and as a weak side defender. Chris is great at that. Not to say Derek isn't, obviously. It's just, there's a slight bump up for Chris. So when you have Chris on the floor in the starting lineup, offensively, they're going to take a little bit of a hit spacing wise. I do think defensively, they're a little bit better in terms of what Chris can do. But if DJ's in there, the spacing he provides, because he is a good corner 3-point shooter and he is a good lob finisher and he's able to slice in for offensive rebounds and putbacks and stuff like that, it does give them this kind of different look that I think has allowed them to excel against a lot of teams. It is an interesting conversation. I do think Derek's defense has been slept on quite a bit this year. Especially, like I said, defending drives. He's been really good, and that's been a key.
How quick of a hook you think Coach Lue would have in a playoff series with Chris Dunn if he's not hitting from the outside and missing those corner threes? Are we talking about by game 2? Are we talking about game 3? How would you see that if Chris Dunn struggled with his offense early on in a playoff series?
Second half of game 2. That's a second half of game 2 adjustment, depending on how game 1 goes. But that's a second half of game 2 adjustment. Game 3 probably at the latest, because, if you're not making shots, look, I don't care how good your defense is at a certain point in the postseason. If you're not making shots, open shots, it becomes very tough to play guys, because in the postseason, as we've seen, throughout the last several years, if you're a person who teams do not respect defensively and they go under screens, or they just flat out don't defend you open in corners, it impacts everything else. Even if you're slot cutting to the middle of the floor and you're getting to the nail and you're able to do short roll, passer, playmaker type things, it doesn't matter.
So I've been talking about another option, and I think Coach Lue has purposely kept this close to the vest or close to the chest, and that's starting Nico Batum. And we've only seen that for 5 minutes, him playing next to Kawhi, Norm, Harden, and Ivica Zubac. But the 2-man lineup data with him next to Ivica Zubac is substantial.
Yeah.
And they are very good out there. It's Nico. He can work with anybody. But I've long believed that they have been holding him back all season long to unleash him during the playoffs. Do you think, depending on the matchup, that's a real possibility in a playoff series where they just start Nico?
I could see it, because he is the ultimate connector. I think it'll be matchup based. Like if they play a bigger team, then yeah, I could see it. They've also stylistically kept his minutes down on purpose, especially throughout the beginning of the season, because he did have a long Olympic stint with France, and he has played a lot of basketball in his career. They did not want to burn him out early on, which is why you've seen him get minutes the longer the year has gone on. I would anticipate that of all their players, he is the most malleable fit with every lineup in terms of their non-main 4 guys. Out of all the bench players and all the possible fifth guys, he fits with everyone. And that is always going to be an option that Nico starts, just because of that factor, because he doesn't need the ball to be effective. He does literally everything else.
For everyone complaining about them not going out and getting that power forward, it's like, guys, they have Nico still. He can shoot and play next to Ivica Zubac and has played very well next to him throughout his tenure with the Clippers.
The one thing I'll add about the DJ Chris Dunn thing is I think people get too caught up in who starts. And starters matter, obviously, because it's beginning. Like most starting lineups will probably play between about 15 to 18 minutes a night, if not 20. I mean, the New York Knicks probably play like 24 a night, which is, they're a little bit abnormal in that regard. It's more important who closes the last 8 minutes of stints in terms of the second and fourth quarters. So I think that'll be the more interesting factor. Like we've seen Ty go to bogey with the other four guys, the core four, I guess, so to speak. So we've seen bogey close with them yesterday. For all the talk of Ty tinkers with lineups and all this stuff, this is playoff mode. Last night before garbage time, he only played 8 lineups. So they're in playoff mode. This is it. This is what they're doing.
One of those lineups we're seeing consistently now is to start second and fourth quarters where it's Kawhi Leonard leading the second unit with DJ in there, with Bogey, Ben Simmons, and Nico Batum. I know coming into last night, they'd only played 22 minutes and they might have played 8 last night. It went well to start the second. It went well early in the fourth, and then they had a bad turnover. I think the lead got down to 9, and Coach Lou went back to the starters plus Bogey and for Dunn. What have you seen from that second unit now with Kawhi being a little bit more assertive out there?
It helps because early on he was not that assertive. But they played 7:55 last night. As you mentioned, that's 8 minutes. They went +2, which is not terrible. Like, obviously you want to win the Kawhi Leonard minutes. Like, if you win the Kawhi Leonard minutes, odds are you're most likely going to win that game. Now, the key factor for them is, do they have enough shooting in that lineup? And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say when you have Bogey, Nico, and Kawhi on the floor. Derek, while having a great year offensively, the best season of his entire career offensively, do teams trust? Are teams scared of him enough as an offensive shooter that they have to close out to him? Because he is on the floor with Ben Simmons. Ben obviously isn't a shooter, not really looking at the basket all that much outside of like his little right-handed hooks and sweeping hooks that he does and putbacks. So like that can become a spacing issue by and large in and of itself. With Bogey, is Bogey enough of a pick and roll ball? Is the ball in his hands enough as a pick and roll ball handler with Kawhi on the floor for that to matter? It's an interesting thing. I think the lineup has some juice to it. It also is going to take time. Obviously, they don't have a lot of time. And with Kawhi, they have even less time. They really only have, how many games left do they have? 5?
6.
6. So he's going to play 4 games, right? So, they really only have, if they're getting 8 minutes a game, you're talking 32 minutes for the rest of the season to kind of hone this down. Is that enough? And, they're going to have one more actual practice during this time, which should probably be on Monday because they have 2 days off. It is an interesting conundrum that they have to work through. A lot of it also comes down to Ben. Like that lineup's viability just comes down to if Ben is good enough offensively.
Yeah, he wasn't looking at the rim much at all last night. I noticed that. Did have an athletic play with the goaltend on the defensive end that I kind of like seeing, actually, him going for that block. So do you have any concerns right now with Norman Powell just being a little bit up and down since he returned and just trying to integrate him now with a fully healthy and a Kawhi Leonard that's no longer on a minutes restriction? Have you seen any issues there with Norm finding his footing?
I think he's struggling to adapt kind of we have to remind ourselves Norm hasn't really been in there much with Kawhi this year. Like when Kawhi came back, Kawhi was still ramping up. It took a while, and then Norm got hurt at the All-Star break. Started to come back, 9 minutes, gets hurt again, and then misses, a couple more weeks. It's a long process for them to kind of like they have to integrate back in because first half of the season, it was, as great as James was, it was Norm's team offensively. Like he did pretty much all the bulk of the scoring in the starting lineup at that time. So that's an adjustment period for him. You can kind of see it when Kawhi first came back. People aren't trying to step on each other's toes. Like, oh, you're here, so I don't want to, impact what you're doing. Now the ramp up has really begun for the postseason, and they have to figure it out. I think Norm is still trying to kind of acclimate to what his role is with Kawhi, with Zoo, and with James all on the floor together. And he's kind of a little bit in like the PG role of the last year, where there were times where PG was on the floor and you just didn't really notice him offensively. That's happened with Norm. Norm's greatest weapon isn't his scoring, though. Norm's greatest weapon is the fact that he's such a dynamic weapon as an off-ball shooter and driver that teams have to always be next to him defensively. So it opens up things for everyone else. Like we started this all off talking about spacing with Chris Dunn versus DJ, but Norm is the ultimate spacer for them. And him being on the floor just helps them massively offensively, even if he's not scoring.
Yeah, I don't see, and I know they could ride the hot hand, and we saw it with B. Shaw play bogey over him late in the fourth quarter. That might have been the game against Sacramento where they went into overtime and Kawhi with the game winner.
That could, that could be, because B. Shaw thought that. Well, also Norm was on a minutes restriction for that game too, and I think they just were like, you know what, it's okay. Like we're just going to play bogey, and it worked. So it's a move that worked at the time, so you can't really argue against it because it did work.
I do think that's a real option if Norm is struggling to close with bogey instead with the rest of the starters, because there is some crossover there, but bogey also offers a lot more on-ball shot creation and just running pick and roll with Ivica Zubac. But Norman Powell has arguably been a top 3 player in fourth quarters the last 2 years now. His numbers are incredible. He's been shooting almost 50% in fourth quarters going back to the start of last season from 3. I don't know if you can take that guy off. I just wonder. There's going to be some tough decisions at times, I feel like, now, because Bogey, he had 9 points and knocked down 3 3-pointers in the fourth quarter last night, and he was playing some of that time next to Norm, but that gives Coach Lue another option to go with.
Yeah, I mean, they've always talked about optionality, right? They usually talk about in terms of like the salary cap and future, flexibility, but they now have it in lineups with those two. I believe they've spent close to 80 minutes together this year. They've been really good when they've been on the floor together, but a lot of that's also like Bogey in the place of Chris Dunn or Derek Jones with the other 4. So like that's always going to look good, stylistically, just because of the spacing, the added playmaking, etc. The issue with Bogey over Norm, and this is my main issue with it, I'm not saying it's not going to work or couldn't work or anything like this, because I think Bogey's a fantastic fit for this team. I'll just say that right now. Killer acquisition from them, in terms of stylistic fit for everything they needed off the bench. The issue with not having Norm on the floor is you lose probably 60% of your downhill threat when he's not on the floor. I know James is good going to the rim now. Like that's been an uptick of his as the season's gone along, especially post All-Star break. And Kawhi's obviously doing more of it. And obviously Zoo, great in the post, great as a rim roller, all this stuff, 100% accurate. The problem is Norm is such a dynamic weapon getting downhill, especially to his left hand with his sweeping finishes, ability to finish high off the glass. If you take that away, that is one less thing defenses have to key in on structurally, and I wonder how much that impacts other guys, where if the ball's not in James's hands, he's standing beyond like 5 feet behind the 3-point line. So being able to get rim pressure when that happens is tough because his defender is able to sag down a little bit more. So you kind of need Norm out there, in my opinion, and his rim pressure creates good looks for other people. Even if he's not passing, he can create looks for himself or his little swing pass to the corner, because he did it last night, I believe, in the first half. I want to say second quarter. He had a drive to the rim going towards the wall, because they went towards the wall in the first half, right? No, they went towards the wall in was it the first half?
No, it was first half.
Okay, yeah. So it had to be second quarter. He drives to the rim, makes a swing pass to the corner, gets swung to the wing, and I can't remember who made the 3, but someone made the 3. And I just remember going, oh, like, okay, like if he's doing that, it's creating rim pressure. It's creating, what has Ty said for years, right? Drive, kick, swing. It's literally the motto the team had shirts left for a couple of years. So they need his rim pressure. It is an interesting conversation. Bogey versus Norm is an interesting combination, but they've been so good together. I don't think it's an either or.
Yeah, and especially with Coach Lou's affinity for guards and just having another ball handler out there, you might like them both together. Like we saw how they closed the game last night at times. If they need more offensive juice, it's something to go to. It could depend a lot on also how is Norm looking defensively that playoff game, you know? Like, is he being picked on at all? Not that Bogey is a better defender, but Bogey does offer a different element offensively. So does Norm. It's just something to watch moving forward. But yeah, I just hope Norm gets a little bit more consistent in these final games when he's on the floor next to Kawhi and kind of finds where he fits in to be most effective out there. Even though we're nitpicking, he's shooting like 41% in the month of March, Norman Powell from three. So
if you want to talk about playoff, getting ready for the playoffs and kind of tie honing in on that, last night, James, Norm, Bogey, Kawhi, Zoo played 7 minutes. Okay. They went plus 11 in 7 minutes. They'd only played 4 minutes before that. He's gearing up. This is it. That's going to be the lineup they go to when they need to really, kind of get down to brass tacks a little bit. He put them in with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They went plus 11. They turned a 9-point game into a 20-point game. And that was it. That was the end of things. So you're going to see this lineup a lot in fourth quarters around the 8-minute mark when it's time to get serious, when it's time to kind of make their push. And it's not unlike, it's kind of funny to think about it in this context. Do you remember how good last year's lineup was with James, PG, Kawhi, Norman, Zoo?
The Powell Rangers.
Yeah. That's the same lineup, just with basically Bogey name-wise in place of PG, but Norm into the PG role and Bogey into the Norm role. It's the same thing.
It could be significantly worse, though, defensively, having Harden, Norm, and Bogey out there.
It will. The one thing I will say is I kind of just think they're okay with that, because they know they can be so good offensively that they don't. Yeah, they don't care what it'll look like defensively. And also, I don't think they're worried about Bogey that much. I think they view Bogey much in the way of James, which is, yeah, on the perimeter, it's not going to be great. You don't want to post him up, because James has been obviously a great post-up defender his entire career. That's the one thing defensively we've seen him be great at over his entire career. Bogey
plus all the strips, all the deflections. Some say there's a different name for.
We won't talk about that. We won't talk about that. But Bogey has been actually great, in terms of deflections. I don't think you can really post Bogey up that much. He's great at swiping in from the side, much like James is. So, and he's a big dude. I don't think people realize how big Bogey actually is. He's bigger than what he's listed at. That's a very physical guy. And so I think they're okay living with if they get posted. Now, perimeter wise is a little bit different story. However, what I will say is I think they trust Kawhi and Zoo so much that it might not matter as much as people think. I don't know. We'll have to see it.
So somebody you definitely don't want to post up would be Ivica Zubac. Couple more questions here, including this. If I took away the politics of it, if I took away all the names and you did the A versus B thing on X and say, who would you guys go with? And you don't give the name out for who you're voting for. Do you think you could make a legit argument with advanced numbers that Ivica Zubac is a top 2 candidate for Defensive Player of the Year?
What I will say is I think all the candidates, a vast majority of the candidates for Defensive Player of the Year this year, have wildly interesting cases that you can make for them. I don't think they're
unique.
Yeah, I know people aren't going to want to hear it, but there's a case for Rudy Gobert again, and I know people are going to be like, why? He's already won 4. It's but then you look at the rest of the candidates this year. It's Rudy's anchoring a team that without him on the floor is incredible, is awful defensively, as it is every year. For Zoo, a lot of it comes down to he's been such an elite rebounder, and they've been so good with him on the floor that I think it matters. The Clippers, where we sit for media to cover the games, that on the monitors they had the Zoo stats because like they're starting their promotion for him, for defensive player of the year, as they should. Every team does this, every team sends out their own stuff. They had it on the monitor that he ranks 3rd in defensive win shares. That's great. He anchors a top 3 defense. That matters. Another one is among players averaging at least 30 minutes, he ranks 4th in the NBA in defensive estimated plus minus. So that's an advanced metric that goes in his favor. It's a tough case to put him top 2. And the reason I say that is because you look at what Evan Mobley's done all year. You look at Draymond Green. You look at Dyson Daniels. I don't think Dyson Daniels should win Defensive Player of the Year. Atlanta's been better with him defensively off the floor. That's also not his fault. I'll just say that.
I've looked at those on-off splits too. It's kind of he's trying to cover up for some really bad defenders he's playing next to.
Right. Like it's not his fault specifically. It's also like the Anthony Davis, the argument against Anthony Davis for the couple years with the Lakers was like, well, the Lakers are better without him defensively. It's like, well, yeah, because they play worse defenders with him because they know he can cover for them. Yeah. So that's kind of what ends up happening. The Zoo case is he's been so durable. He's been so good. And the rest of the field hasn't been as good as normal DPOY years that maybe he could sneak in a top 3 vote and finish there. I don't think he'll win it. I don't think he finishes top 2. I kind of just think we're on track to Draymond or Lou Dort getting it just because I just think voters are going to look and be like, well, Lou Dort's never made an all defensive team. Draymond has helped the Warriors, get back to this level that they're at. And I think that's kind of what people will settle on. I also just don't think Zoo has the name. At the end of the day, I just don't think he has the name. And his team, while they've been great in this recent stretch, his team doesn't have a top 3 record in the conference, and that will probably hurt him too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those cases where he'll have more buzz heading into next season because he's at least mentioned this time around. I think he also has a case for 3rd team All-NBA with how good he's been this year. And I'm in 3rd team All-Defense, like 3rd team All-NBA. I don't think he'll make it, but I think he's been that good on the offensive end. I think I heard Justin Wilson say this on the Lob the Jam, the podcast, but his last 22 games, he's at 19-12 on 65% shooting from the field. Like,
yeah, he's been incredible.
Yeah, that's all NBA type stuff right there.
I mean, yeah, like if you end up looking at what he's done since the beginning of February, even you go back to February 2nd when they lost on the road to Toronto. That's 28 games, 18.5, 12 rebounds. That's like we talk about how good a lot of centers are in the league. Not a lot of centers are averaging 19 and 12 over a 30-game span, basically.
Yeah, and it's not empty because it's not like some Nikola Vucevic numbers where he's getting cooked on the other end or something like that. It's all impactful stuff that Ivica Zubac does for you. So before we get out of here, Justin, I want to ask you, you brought up the Golden State Warriors. They're taking on the Lakers tonight. Who would you rather see in a 7-game series between the Lakers or the Denver Nuggets in the first round? Who do you think would be more advantageous for the Clippers to go up against? Because I know most people think, you want Houston because of their inexperience.
Right.
So I'm trying to make this a more difficult question. Just go between Denver and what Jokic can do against you, even though their defense hasn't been that great, or dealing with Luka now next to LeBron in a series.
This is a tough question. The reason I say this is because you really are picking between 2 very toxic poisons, essentially. Like, do I want to face Luka Doncic and the absolutely insane Denver Nuggets offense? Like, yeah, it's incredible. Or do I want to face Luka Doncic for the 37th year in a row and just deal with that again? And, they got LeBron James. And, they got Austin Reeves. Let's not forget about him. Probably arguably the best 3rd option in the league, or at least close to it.
You know what I said recently about him? I got him ahead of Devin Booker. I would take him today over Devin Booker. And Tomer said, you're crazy. What book are you talking about? A lot of people didn't like it, but some people, Lakers fans, liked it, of course.
What I will say about Devin Booker is I think this year he's taken a step back. And I don't know how much of the step back for Devin is just everything that's going on in Phoenix is a mess. Apparently, except when they play the Clippers for some reason. But I don't know how much of it is just he's just miserable right now with the way that the season's gone, and it's just, you know, one of those years. The tough part of that argument is we've seen Devin at the highest stage, and we've seen him deliver on an international stage. Like, he's been their guy and stuff like that, you know, defensively as well.
I don't think I'm wrong. I'm just early. I think that's what it's
you could be. You could be. I think it's an interesting debate.
I think Devin Booker hasn't looked right since Luka stared at him in that game 7 or whatever it was. He hasn't looked right to me. I worry about him now in big game situations. If you look actually at the playoff numbers of Austin Reeves, I think he's played like 20 games. 9 of those he's had 20 points or more. Like, he has something about him where he is also living for a big moment. Like that game 1 against Memphis a couple years ago in 2023 where he said, I'm him. He wants it. And he has, I think, more on-ball creation juice with getting others involved or getting downhill with more wiggle to the basket than Devin Booker does.
I don't disagree with you there. It's funny because in conversations with people, I've coined a phrase. It's like the not give a shit factor. And I think Austin has that. Like he just doesn't give a shit, where like in a good way. Like he's like, all right, like I don't care who's on me. I'm just going. I think Devin has lost a little bit of that. He had that a couple years ago.
He did.
I just think the way that it's gone in Phoenix the last 2 years has kind of just made him. I think it just broke part of his basketball soul. To be perfectly honest, that's not saying he can't get it back. I think he's an incredible player. But to your earlier question, Denver, the Lakers, I kind of, if you had to pick, I think you lean Lakers. And the only reason I say that is because I think there's more pressure points that you can attack defensively. I understand Denver's defense is bad. I get it. They're like 20th or whatever, 21st in defense, something like that. I completely get it. With the Lakers, I think, as we've seen with the Clippers going against Luka and LeBron for the last couple of years with Ty at the helm, they will, and Austin as well, they will attack them. They will, like, they'll just go at them and go at them mismatches. I think that's what they will try to do to wear them down. With Denver, I'm not sure. You can't wear Jokic down. Let's be honest about it.
No.
He's a machine.
He's going to average like 42 minutes per game.
They might have to play him an entire 48 minutes. I mean, their bench was that bad, to be honest with you. And that's the only upside I would say to play in Denver as well. Their bench is so bad, it gives you hope. But also, how much is their bench on the floor without Jokic? Like, he ramps up to 42, 44 minutes a game in the playoffs. And
what about because you have Ivica Zubac against Jokic, and if you look in isolation plays one-on-one, nobody's been better against Jokic the last 5 years.
I agree, but what happens if Zubac gets in foul trouble against Jokic?
Yeah.
And that's like what happens if Zoo gets in foul trouble at all in any series against any opponent? Like they're in trouble.
To me, that's a series where they start Nico.
I could see it. But also, like, do you start Nico? At least not in the first game or two, just because Chris has to guard Jamal. You know, I also just, as much as the Lakers can get out in transition at times, do you want to guard the Nuggets in transition with Christian Brown? Not really. Christian Brown, I don't know if people know this. Christian Brown's going to lead the NBA in fast break points this year. It actually ends a streak of 5 consecutive years that Giannis has led the NBA. So that's not nothing. That's kind of wild, actually. Playing against Jokic is just a miserable experience. I get, like, people watch the Clippers against Luka and they're like, oh, like, this sucks. Like, Luka always does this stuff. And
my concern is it's not just Luka bringing Ivica Zubac away from the basket now. It's LeBron trying to do the same thing. And I just worry it negates so much of the good that Ivica Zubac brings defensively. Like, you're not going to go small and beat the Lakers, right?
I think you can.
You think you can?
I think they have more options against the Lakers than they do the Nuggets, especially defensively. I think you have Nico. you have Nico, you have Derek, you have Kawhi. Those are three great wing defenders that
But
can
I just-
guard.
Against Denver, the only way you're going small is if Ivica Zubac gets in foul trouble. Against the Lakers, you're going small because they keep bringing him up on switches, and I hate
agree.
that.
I agree. The counter argument I would make to that is, and this sounds weird to say out loud, is like, who cares? Because if Zoo's on the floor and the Lakers are small, or small as can be with LeBron on the floor and Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt, whatever, like, just get the ball to Zoo offensively in the post and they're going to double and you get your own great shots as a result, So I don't think there's a great answer. I don't think there's a great answer here. I just think it's like, but this is also the Western Conference, right? Like, every team can look at another team and just be like, do I really want to play? Like, the Lakers are going to look at the Clippers and be like, great. We have to play James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, and we got to do it with Ivica. That's awesome. Love it. Same thing with no team in the West should be excited to play any team unless you're OKC and you're just like, who cares? Like, we've been so historically good. We'll probably run through everybody anyways.
Yeah. So where do you have the Clippers finishing?
Like, record-wise or seeding?
Seeding. Do they stay out of the play-in with 6 games left?
I think they stay out of the play-in. I think. Obviously, anything
more
can
likely
happen.
than not.
I think they're more likely than not to stay out. Memphis is just, that's the one thing I was right about too. In regards to them, even when they were at 3, it's like they've not been good against non-Eastern Conference teams all year. Like, the reason their record was so good early on is just because they played half their games against the East. But I think Memphis is in the play-in. The question then becomes, who's the other team that would fall out? And obviously, the obvious answer is Golden State, especially just because they play the Lakers, tonight. They play Denver tomorrow, I think, at Golden State.
Yeah.
So these could be losses, but also, like, you don't know anymore at this point of the year. Like, weird stuff is happening. Okay. Like, we're getting teams that win games who shouldn't. The Wizards beat the Kings, not saying the Kings are good or anything, but like what is happening this time of year?
San Antonio beat Denver.
Granted, Denver
didn't play Jokic though.
I mean, they didn't play their entire starting lineup.
Yeah.
That was crazy, but
they thought they could get away with it. Apparently not.
I mean, I just think they're really banged up. Like, that's the other problem too. I might be crazy. Okay, so bear with me. I think they can get to
Denver
5.
falling out.
I think they can get to 5.
Oh, okay.
Now the question is, do you want to get to 5? The other question then becomes, does it matter? Like, you can't jerry-rig seeding at this point because everyone's so discombobulated and jumbled together. I kind of just think you got to live with where you finish, and if you can get to 5, you just get to 5.
So that means they're running the table, right? To get to 5, they're winning the last 6 games.
I think they can afford probably maybe one loss, maybe. If they lose the Houston game, maybe.
Do you think Houston ends up at 2 now that Denver's lost a couple?
Yeah. The only team who can catch them. So here's the interesting part, actually.
Lakers?
The Lakers can get to 2. And they get to 2 rather easily. Like, they just have they still have a game with Houston that decides the head-to-head tiebreaker. Houston just has to lose one more game. OKC, oddly enough, controls the entire Western Conference seeding at this point. They play the Lakers twice, and they play Houston still, I believe. OKC gets to determine who finishes 2 and 3. And if if the OKC just flat out decides, hey, you know what would be great? The Lakers and the Nuggets play each other in the 2-3. They could do that.
Yeah. You can't project. You can't choose your opponent. The best you can do is just try to stay out of the play-in probably and do whatever you can.
Like, yeah, if you're the Clippers, the ideal scenario is you get 7, win the play-in for 7, and you get Houston at 2. But what happens if you angle for that and you get and you get 7? Turns out Houston's 3.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah. So
I don't think you can mess around and get into the play. And even if you think, well, we'll get Memphis in the 7-8 and we'll have it into a dome, like you can't do that. You think Kawhi plays tomorrow or Saturday?
I think he plays Saturday.
Why?
If you end up looking, like, they were exhausted yesterday, man. Like they flew back on Tuesday from Orlando. They were exhausted. It was a long trip.
Yeah.
I kind of also think because of that, you sit Kawhi tomorrow, you play him Saturday, and what will be like everyone's going to be exhausted for Saturday. It's going to be like a 5-7 or a 6-9 or something like that for them. So you just try to they're going to be up against the wall. Kawhi will be fresher off of 2 days off. He's able to probably carry them a little bit better, kind of like the Orlando game he did. So
and then sit him against San Antonio and play him against Houston?
You might have to. Which is kind of funny in retrospect because, like, he would get, 3 days off before the Houston game?
Right.
But also, like, the Spurs aren't playing anybody. Like,
that's what I thought.
Let me be fair. Harrison Barnes is eternal. Harrison Barnes has the second longest active games played streak behind Mikal Bridges. Harrison Barnes always plays. But San Antonio's under no illusions. They know what they're here for. They couldn't help. Bro, we talked about it. Denver sat their entire starting lineup and barely lost. Barely lost.
Well, they got a heater from Russ, who missed another layup in that game, but
it's going well there right now. I kind of think I think you sit Kawhi tomorrow, play him Saturday.
What if Dallas says they're playing AD tomorrow, though? Do you match him against Anthony Davis?
I don't think it matters. Anthony Davis is incredible. Let's just be honest with you. He's been fantastic for them, okay? He just
in 6 games.
Yeah, but like, I mean, we can admit that he's been incredible for them. It's insane what he's done. It's just, what are the other offensive worries you have on that team?
Yeah.
I mean, well, Spencer Dinwiddie, because he's always capable, I guess. Najee Marshall's capable.
Marshall's had some games.
He's had some really good games. He had that triple-double. That was crazy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, well, they're going to get Derek Lively back. I think they get him back tonight or something. No, not tonight. They're getting him back soon, I think. Or did they just get him back? I don't remember. I saw the report that they're getting him back. So, he played yesterday. That's what it was, right? Against Atlanta. Yeah, he played 16 minutes against Atlanta. So Lively's going to play one of the 2 Clippers games, okay? That'll be a problem, but also, does Dallas want to make the play-in?
I think they do. I think it's a boon for them in a season, or it couldn't be worse, but like maybe not making it. I don't know. It gives the fans something. It's not much, but it's something. They'll take anything right now. Like I think what they want is, it's not so much about the play-in. I think they want more games with Anthony Davis just to show off. This is our guy. This is who we're rolling with moving forward. It's not as disastrous of a trade as you guys think. Look at AD. I think that's what's most important for them.
Also, like, I don't think AD's done. Like, I'm not going to say he struggled against it. Well, he kind of has struggled against the Clippers the last, couple years. I also just don't think the Clippers care if he plays and don't have Kawhi. Like, they guard him
played him in a game this year.
Yeah, they tend to guard him pretty well. Granted, this is a different situation.
He hasn't had monster games against the Clippers with the Lakers. He didn't.
No, like his last 30-point game against the Clippers was 9 games ago against them, and they lost that game too. The Lakers did. Granted, he's won 3 of the last 5 against the Clippers, but also he hasn't really played well in any of them. Like LeBron's went nuclear in half of them. I just don't think it matters to the Clippers if AD plays on tomorrow's game. Yeah. I think they sit Kawhi. Like, I saw Law tweet this. Like, it makes more sense to get Kawhi continued rest so you don't burn him out before the playoffs. Like, Kawhi's up to 40 minutes a game recently. Like, this is playoff time. Yeah. As Kawhi said post-game, it's big boy time. You know, like, this is what it is. And I understand, fans freak out. Like, oh, Kawhi played 40 minutes again, tonight. Yeah, what do you think he's going to do in 2 weeks? Like,
and that's why you also need to stay out of the play-in. If you really want to get him fresh, stay out of the play-in.
Yeah, you get him a nice little week off. That'll be nice. That'll be good for him. Like, even at the worst case scenario, if you play that Tuesday play-in and you win it, that's even okay. You don't want to lose Tuesday, then play Friday, then he's got to play Sunday again, because then he's not getting any rest. What I will say is credit to the NBA finally for the play-in schedule. It's one very minute thing I'm crediting them for. First off, the play-in should go away, or at least have the buffer zone like they did in the bubble. But what I will credit them for is they didn't do this last year, and I don't believe they did it the year before. But finally, they did the 7-8 games on the same day, and then had the 9-10 games the day after to give the 7-8 loser an extra day off. That should have been the inherent, baked-in advantage of getting the 7-8 game. If you lose it, at least you got an extra day off. It wasn't like that usually. It was the West 7-8 game and the West 9-10 game would be the same day. And that's not how it should be.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. No, that's a good point.
So, if you're the Clippers, and let's say hypothetically here, they finish 7, they lose 7-8 at home. At least they have 2 days off and they're still home and they don't have to travel. That's the upside to that game.
Yeah, the downside is even if you win, you're playing OKC in the first round, and
joy. Oh, how lovely that is.
I'd give them a puncher's chance, but their defense is so good. Their perimeter defense is so good.
It's the greatest defense I've ever seen, and I really do mean that. That's the greatest defense I've ever seen.
I think modern NBA, they have a real argument for that. I mean, the numbers say it.
I know we're supposed to talk about the Clippers. I just want to say this, and I'll leave it at this. I really hope people understand what they've seen out of OKC this year. They have a great argument, a very good argument, to be the greatest team we've ever seen regular season-wise. And if they put it together in the postseason and win convincingly in the playoffs and win a title this year and go 16-3, hypothetically, right? We're talking about one of the absolute, if not the greatest team we've ever seen season-wise. And it could be insane. They've been so good. Part of Shea's MVP argument is the Steph argument from their 72 win season, where it was well, he just doesn't play fourth quarters. So
yeah,
he's so good,
I agree with you. They have somehow flown under the radar because of inept national media coverage.
They are beating the shit out of teams.
Yeah.
Matt Moore, HP Basketball, had a tweet from 2 or 3 months ago, and it was something to the effect of I really respect how few times you'll turn on an OKC game this year and see them not give a shit or play down to their competition, where it's they're playing a bad team or a team missing a bunch of people and they just oh, we're kind of sleepwalking. It just doesn't happen.
No, they're wise beyond their years. The playoffs will prove it ultimately, but they have approached the regular season with a certain level of pedigree that they haven't actually earned yet. But I don't know. They have high expectations for themselves. They have a high standard that they
as they should, because I think last year losing in the second round was the best thing that could have happened to them. Probably. I think it brought them back to the drawing board of this is what we need to take seriously, and they're not going to skip steps. They're going to be there present every single day mentally, and they've done it. And and with that said, I guess Clippers related to this. I think the magic number for OKC to clinch the top record in the NBA is 2. So any combination of 2 Thunder wins, 2 Cavs losses, or 1-1 each, which will clinch the Clippers with the 30th NBA draft pick for the first round of the draft. So when OKC gets the best record, Clippers pick 30th. I hope everyone's ready for that.
Yeah. That whole, can they stay ahead of Houston this season? Didn't
There's
work.
still a chance. It's a 0.3% chance, but there's still something brewing there, buddy.
Houston wasn't just. I thought they'd be like 6 through 8 somewhere there. No, Houston's currently the 2 seed in the Western Conference. They've been that good.
I mean, hey, listen, I'm still rooting for the 6 or 7 team tiebreaker, so I need that in my life.
Justin Russo embraces the madness.
Listen, we all need chaos in this NBA, rest of the regular season. Because I will say this, it's been a fun regular season to watch. Like Clippers related, I understand people are going to be like, well, there were some games they should have won that they lost, but they also won some games that they lost or should have lost, whatever. So everything kind of balances out, but also like it's been a fun season to watch. Like the Clippers have been fun. I just don't know what else to say. Like they've just been fun to watch. Like, yeah, like there's some gritty games. Like that game against Orlando was nasty at times, but that was fun to watch. Like,
I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. So
that's a playoff preview. There are going to be games like that.
It's not going to be pretty every single night. And as they talked about post game last night, because I asked them specifically like what my article was about, which was first game back after a long road trip. Like those games, you could lose games, like that. In fact, oddly enough, like a lot's been made about the Boston Celtics and how poor they've been at home this year compared to the road. They've lost every home game they've come back home to after a long road trip this year. They're like 0-6. The Celtics are. Think of how great the Celtics are, and they haven't won at home since coming back from like a 4-game road trip this year.
Is that what happened last night? Did they get smoked by Miami?
Yeah. First game back at home after a road trip, and they lost. So
I think Pablo said the Clippers were like 0-6 in these situations last year, where they'd come home after a long road trip, but they used to fly back that last night after the last game on the road trip.
Yeah, now they're staying.
They're staying, and it's had a better effect, it looks like.
I think they're actually getting sleep. And like that's a big factor. Like no bullshit. Like that's the biggest factor. They're getting sleep. It matters. Like sleeping in the bed versus a plane, you'll take that every time.
He is Justin Russo. Don't sleep on his Substack. Follow him at FlyByNight, KNITE on X for more of this great analysis throughout, hopefully, a long Clippers playoff run. But you at least need him right now because he'll keep you updated on the NBA standings, what to root for each and every night. I guess we have to root for the Lakers tonight. I don't think I can do it, but I'll
think about it. Think about it as not rooting for that. You're rooting for the Warriors' loss.
I'm saying let the basketball gods sort it out. That's where I'm at with it. I don't know if I can root for either of these teams.
I mean, the reason I say that is because they can't catch. Like, it's very highly improbable they catch the Lakers in the standings. Yeah. So that's the only reason I would say.
No, it totally makes sense. Justin, do you have anything else you need to promote here? Do you got any upcoming articles you're working on that you want people to find out about? Reasons they should be subscribing to the Substack right now?
I'm trying to work on a couple things. We'll see if that happens. So that's about it.
Well, great work as always. We're just listening to you post game, ask the tough questions. You and Tomer doing some big work with Joey Lynn in there and La Murray, and we are missing this coverage on the road sometimes where we got it's discussion for another day. But
I mean, what I will say is I think Clipper fans should thank Law a lot because Law pretty much goes to every road game, and a lot of the stuff you see post game wouldn't be on the road would not be possible without him. So I just wanted to add that. But yeah, I wish traveling was easier, and especially in this climate. So yeah, got to go get a real ID if I want to keep doing that, I guess.
Oh, I guess I got to do that soon. All right, Justin, thank you. Appreciate you. This has been another edition of Clippers Talk, 181 straight days here on Clippers Talk. For Justin Russo, I'm Adam Moslin. Pregame show starting at 6:30 tomorrow night. Clippers are into a dome, taking on the Dallas Mavericks on the front end of a back-to-back against them. Talk to you then.
All right, bro.